Welcome to The Abundance Journey, the show that helps spiritual entrepreneurs create an abundance mindset that accelerates revenue. Here's your host, the Abundance Ambassador, Elaine Starling.
What if you've had psychic and intuitive abilities your whole life, but you've been accidentally ignoring them? Welcome to the Abundance Journey Show. I'm your host, Elaine Starling, the Abundance Ambassador, and I'm here to help you activate the flow of abundance in every area of your life. You know, like igniting your intuition, that's a form of abundance. Now, I gotta let you in on one of my absolute favorite secrets. You know how sometimes you meet somebody and you just think, man, I must have known you in another lifetime, right? Well, that kind of person is Julie Ryan. She's the friend you want to sit next to at dinner because the conversation shifts immediately out of please pass the sugar to, you know, here's what your angels really want you to know in about 30 seconds. Julie is a psychic medium and a medical intuitive who can sense what's going on in your body, facilitate energetic healing, and talk to spirits, both living and departed. She calls herself the buffet of psychicness for a really good reason, because she can scan animals, explore past lives, and even tell when somebody's really close to crossing over. She's the author of the book Angelic Attendance, which reveals what really happens when we die, how angels appear, loved ones gather, even our pets return to greet us. It's a fabulous book, one of my favorites. She also has her Angel Messages books for children, so she can answer deep questions that only kids ever dare to ask. And then they always leave us kind of hanging, right? It's like, how do I answer that? Get the books, Angel Messages. Now, here's the real kicker. Julie's not just an intuitive powerhouse, okay? She's a very seasoned, talented entrepreneur. She's founded nine companies in 5 different industries. She's invented surgical devices that are sold worldwide, and she hosts the Ask Julie Ryan show that's heard in over 100 countries. I was thrilled to be on her show. We are so lucky to have Julie here today on the Abundance Journey Show because she's going to share her remarkable gifts and remind us that psychic and healing abilities aren't reserved for just a chosen few, because Julie can teach you how to do this too. How do I know? Because I took her remote healing training. Thank you very much. And it freaking rocked. Julie, I am so glad you're here.
Oh, you are such a sweet thing. My goodness, what an amazing intro. Makes me wonder who you're talking about. I'm like, I want to meet that person.
Grab a mirror.
Thank you so much for your kind comments.
Oh, no, this is really fabulous. I mean, your energy is through the roof. It's really intense and very deeply loving. That's what I noticed about you from the word go. I mean, you're just all that. And I am so grateful that you're taking the time to join us. I want to make sure that everyone listening and watching can get the best out of this experience. So we're going to combine our energy. We're going to do 2 little things to combine our energy. The first thing we're going to do is take 3 long, slow, deep breaths together. And as we breathe in through the nose, think the words, I am. And as we breathe out through the mouth, think the word consciousness. I'll remind you when we get there. Then after the 3 breaths, I'm going to share an intention. I always point at my chest, my heart, when I say intention, because it's just like typing into a spiritual GPS. This is where we're going to go. Thanks so much for a fun journey. That's really what it is. And then Julie and I don't have a script. We're winging it. We're just having fun, and we are divinely guided to fulfill that intention. We will be holding the intention for 78 seconds of silence after I share it with you. And I know that can be really challenging. I tend to struggle with silence like that too. And I found 2 things that really help. First of all, I'll pick 2 or 3 words out of the intention that just feel uplifting and expansive. It's that high vibration that I choose to adopt as my new reality. And I'll repeat those 2 or 3 words over and over again to myself throughout the 78 seconds. And then I notice what's happening with my body, because there are so many signals and signs that we get in our physical being and we don't realize what's going on. Well, any sensation you get, a rush of heat, goosebumps, is just a sign that the God of your understanding, what I call the divine, has locked into that new higher vibration and they're ready to play. Speaking of playing, shall we?
Absolutely. I'll follow your lead.
Awesome. We're going to start with 3 long, slow, deep breaths. Breathe in, I am. Breathe out, consciousness. Breathe in, I am. Breathe out, consciousness. Breathe in, I am. Breathe out, consciousness. In love and light, we are so happy and grateful that we awaken to our natural psychic gifts and the power of remote healing, trusting our intuition, releasing doubt, and allowing divine energy to flow through us with ease as we remember that we are channels for love, light, and restoration, guided by spirit to bring comfort, clarity, and wholeness to ourselves and others. Thank you, divine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is done. We give thanks, and so it is. Wow, that was really high energy. What happened for you?
I had a really profound vision, actually. And we were in a snow globe with sparkles. You know, you shake up a snow globe and there's sparkles. It wasn't snow, it was sparkles in there. And there was a scene of a cave opening with brilliant light coming out of the cave. And so when the scene started at the 78 seconds, you and I were, as we are today, and we were holding hands and we were skipping towards the cave, which was totally black around us with the sparkles in the air. And then we were going through different phases in our lives, like, you know, in our 40s, in our late 20s, college age, high school, grade school, little children, the whole time holding hands and skipping towards the cave. And we kept getting closer to the cave. And then eventually we turned into fetuses holding on with each other. And then we turned into, you know, just the blob of cells of a recently fertilized egg, you know, that had just been conceived. And then once we did that, then we turned in, as we entered the opening of the cave and the light, we were one cell. and we were kind of an oblong, like a horizontal oval cell as we went into the light together. And I thought, how cool was that? You were saying we were going to merge our energy. And I was laughing in my mind's eye when you and I were skipping today. It was like we were skipping it through this black hole going into this cave of light.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing because that simple technique of taking 3 long, slow, deep breaths, everyone listening or watching, you're united with my energy and with Julie's energy, not just today, not just as you listen to this or watch it, but for all lifetimes. For all lifetimes, we are with you. We are one with you. So when you're having a tough time or you're wondering, how do I do this intuition thing? You just think of Julie or think of me. We both have very high vibrations, and you can immediately feel your vibration lift and expand because we are connected. We are all one. It's pretty amazing.
I agree. Well, I agree. And people have told me throughout the years when they listen to my Ask Julie Ryan show, they'll say, I just have it playing in the background a lot of the time when I'm in my office, and I'm not really even paying attention to what's being said, and yet it makes me feel better. Or if I'm feeling blue or grieving or something, same thing, I'll just listen to some of your shows and it just immediately raises my vibrational level. So there's some confirmation for you that yes, this is exactly what happens.
One of the things that a lot of people will say to me is they feel kind of guilty or egotistical or selfish when they're focusing on themselves and their own abilities and learning how to do these kinds of things. And I came across a book a few years ago that is absolutely fabulous. It's called Connected, really long subtitle, The Surprising Power of Our Social Networks and How They Shape Our Lives. Just remember Connected. It's written by 2 social scientists who teach at different universities, and they were really curious about the whole 6 degrees of separation thing. They want to know, how real is this? So they got a bunch of grad students together and did a massive study and discovered something that they call the 3 degrees of influence rule. It turns out that you have influence over your friends, 3 levels away from you. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I wonder how many people that is. So I asked Dr. Google, and she came back with a recently published article in the New York Times citing research that says the average American knows about 600 people. And I thought, what? Not a way in the world I know 600 people. I asked 2 friends who were very knowledgeable. They said, oh, that's really low, closer to 1,000 people. I was like, okay, fine. I didn't do the math. These researchers did the math. Let's just pretend they have the right number and see what happens. So if you imagine a bullseye where you're at the middle of the bullseye and there's 3 rings around you, your friends, that first ring is the 600 people you know. And they all know 600 people. That's 360,000 people. And they all know 600 people. That's 216 million people in your third ring. According to the social scientists who wrote the book Connected, everything you think, feel, say, and do ripples out to 216,360,600 people. You being you is incredibly powerful. And then they measured just how powerful that is. It turns out that when you are honoring your intuitive abilities and your remote healing capabilities, and you live from that space, those 600 people in your first ring are 15% more likely to step up and live from that space too. And the 360,000 people in your second ring are 10% more likely to live from their intuition and remote healing abilities. They're using their powers again. And those 216 million people, you're convinced there's not a way in the world? Yeah, 6% more likely to live into that just because you are. So it's not selfish. When you listen to Julie and you take her courses, she's freakishly brilliant. I mean, and just sweet as pie. So honestly, it's a godsend for you to discover Julie and to collaborate with Julie, because as you show up from that space, you're enriching so many lives. You're empowering so many people.
Oh, again, thank you for your kind comments. Goodness, I'm going to hire you as my PR agent, girl.
Well, I want to get the skinny. I want to get the background, because you've been at this for a little while. What prompted this incredible experience for you? How did you acquire these skills, and why are you so passionate about teaching them to others?
Well, I was not one of those psychics who grew up having dead people chase her. Or if I did, I didn't know about it, let alone what I would have done with that information. As you mentioned, Elaine, I'm a businesswoman and an inventor of surgical devices and former manufacturer of them. So one day, more than 30 years ago, a friend gave me a book called Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Mays. And she called herself a medical intuitive. And I thought, well, what the heck is that? I'd never heard that term before. And back then, we didn't have the internet yet. And I wanted to learn more about what was a medical intuitive and see if there was more information out there. Because certainly, as an inventor and manufacturer of surgical devices, I was all about helping people heal through the typical medical channels with doctors and surgeons and medical providers. So I went to a bookstore to see if there was something else there. I thought a bookstore might be more likely to have more woo-woo stuff. That's what I started calling it back then, than even my local library. And I found a book called Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan. Barbara Brennan was a former NASA physicist, she's deceased now, who parlayed very complex quantum physics principles and concepts into understandable English for the non-scientific mind. That would be me. And she used energy to help people heal. So that really piqued my interest. And I called her school, which at the time was on Long Island in New York. And I said, do you have anybody teaching this stuff in my area? And as luck would have it, they did. They said, we have a graduate who just opened a school in your area. And I said, great. So I studied with her for 6 years. She's still my mentor. She's in her 80s now, mid 80s. And I learned how to be a medical intuitive and psychic medium. And in doing that, Elaine, what I also learned was once we connect with spirit, we can do it all. There's no reason for this to be siloed. You got the psychics and the pet psychics, and you got the healers, and you got the past life people, and you got the whatever, NDEers. It's all the same thing. That's why I coined it as my buffet of psychicness, because once we connect with spirit, we can do it all. And that's what I teach as well.
It's so true. It is so true. And it's also important that people understand you have these abilities too. You really do. You just forgot about them, and you're here for a specific purpose. You're here to help expand the divine. I've got a whole story about that too, but I want to stay focused on you because this is such important stuff. How do we recognize when we're ready to explore our intuition and learn how to do the remote healing?
Well, I think people, when they are led to explore their spirituality and it leads them, that curiosity leads them to look into, a huge percentage of the time it's when we've lost a loved one.
Yeah.
And people are wanting to communicate with their loved one. And it's part of the grieving process. And actually, university-based research shows that it does help grieving when we can communicate with our deceased loved one's spirits. And a lot of the time, they'll go to a medium and not tell anybody about it because they're embarrassed. Although these skills, everybody comes in with them. Little children are very good at talking with spirits, at knowing things, about having information about past lives. That's what my children's book series, the Angel Messages series, is about. And how that came to fruition was I had so many mothers and grandmothers over the years say, how do I explain to my child or my grandchild that, yeah, that really was their grandfather's name. And yes, he really was interested in trains. And this 3-year-old saying, yeah, Grandpa comes and plays trains with me in my room at night. And he knows information about Grandpa that there's no way he could know because Grandpa's been dead for 30 years before this child was even born. Or how does a child who can't read yet know information about a past life and comes up with data that can be corroborated and validated with online historical information? And they're going, well, wait a minute, Georgie can't read yet. How would he know this? And then lastly, I've had so many clients over the years say, how do I explain to my child or my grandchild that Grandma has died. And little Susie says, no, she didn't. She's asleep in that box up there in the front of the room because they're at the funeral home for the visitation hours. So that's why I was led to do the angel messages books. But all of us, Elaine, have had situations where we think of somebody and they call us or they email us or they text us or we run into them and we say, oh my goodness, I've been thinking of you. You've been on my mind. What a coincidence. There's no coincidence there. That's your intuition at play.
So true. And it's really true. You can have messages with those who have passed. I was really blessed to get to spend 10 years supporting my in-laws and my parents as they slowly transitioned on. And I had never seen bluebirds in my neighborhood until my father-in-law passed. And then all of a sudden, bluebirds, and they'd fly alongside as I would walk until they got my attention, then fly overhead. Bluebird of happiness. Hey, it's all going great. Have a wonderful day, Sonny. And then my dad always used to freak out about me merging onto the freeway. And I'm a really good driver, but he was always nervous about it. I always check. And 99.9% of the time, Dad clears space for me on a really busy highway to open it up. So it's super easy for me to get on. And I always say, thank you, Dad. I love you. I miss you. And I'm so happy that you send me all these this love and blessings. Because yeah, you can get this. You can get messages. You have to be willing to get messages. Because
and recognize that it's that first thought that comes in your head. You could very easily say, oh, I'm just lucky because the freeway clears in order for me to get on the on-ramp. But there's that first thought that's in your head. Thanks, Dad. Pay attention to that. Yeah. Because what we do is we overthink things. We have a thought that comes into our head that's communication from spirit. And then we say, oh, that's just my imagination. That's not really real. Yes, it is. When you think about it for more than a second or so, that's your brain. So yeah, it's that first thing that comes in your head.
And the other thing I've noticed, Julie, I don't know if you have or not, I know it's spirit because it's very loving and very welcoming and encouraging and uplifting and expansive. If it's a negative something, that's my human self. That's not spirit.
Absolutely. Yes. All spirits are pure love. So I always, when somebody comes to me and they say, I have some evil spirit that's following me around and telling me awful things, I'll say, that's your brain. That's not spirit. All spirits are pure love.
That is so true. Now, I have to ask you this question because this is called the abundance journey, right? And no two people ever define abundance exactly the same way. And I can't wait to hear, given the kind of work that you do with intuition and remote healing, how do you define abundance?
Joy, living a life of joy.
So true. And it's so interesting.
Every area.
Choice, right?
Well, we come in filled with joy. Look at any baby. Babies are happy unless they need to be fed or changed or, they're tired or something hurts. Baby's natural state is joy. And we all return to that natural state of joy every night when we sleep because we go back to the frequency of spirit, which is a high vibration. All those thoughts and feelings that feel bad, they're all a low vibration. And that's not where spirit communicates to us. Their communication is always coming in. We're not able to receive it because we're on the I feel crappy channels of a low vibration. And it's like the equivalent of spirits communicating on the classical music channel or the disco channel. You can't listen to disco music without being in a good mood. It's not possible. You and I grew up during the disco era. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You can't. It's not possible. And so that's the feel good channel. And then the low vibration channel is the old time whiny country music where they're complaining about mama, the truck, and the dog. And you just listen. And I just think, why does somebody want to listen to that? It's going to put you in a bad mood and make you feel terrible. Yeah. So it's just a difference. Spirit's always sending us information. It's just what channel are we tuned in to receive that information? It's kind of like if you have satellite TV and a big storm goes over your house and you lose the connection for maybe a few minutes while the storm blows over, well, that whatever that program is still being broadcast. You're just not able to receive it. Same
Right.
concept.
It's there all the time. Julie, I want to share something that happened for me just last year. It was a really, really powerful experience. I was in my kitchen doing dishes. I was just musing over how, sometimes you're working on a project and it's a breeze, it's a snap, it's no big deal. It just comes together. It's like instant. And then other times you're working on a project and it is a freaking slog. It doesn't matter what you do, you hit roadblock, problem, challenge, issue. It's just beyond frustrating. And I was wondering, why does this happen? And I immediately felt and heard a very loud, forceful voice in my body that said, when you deny your power is denied to you. When you acknowledge your power is shown to you. You are more powerful than you can imagine. And I was like, whoa, and I dried my hands and I wrote it down. How am I denying my power? Sorry, won't do that anymore. What am I doing? And I realized that often the words I use in the past, I'm getting much better at this, we have habits of speaking that don't serve us.
Right.
I am learning to get rid of saying, I want, I need, I will try. Those deny my power. They undermine my ability. Instead, I say, I choose, I intend, I am. That has a lot more power to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to know more about you and how you really called in your power and started owning your power. And honestly, I think it's because I got that message that I was guided to discover your show and I was guided to take your training because I asked to know and acknowledge my power. And I was shown that you understand and can explain it really clearly. And you do. You're brilliant. It was great.
Oh, thank you. My favorite referral. I have clients. I'll say, well, how did we meet? And my favorite one is this gentleman who's a commercial pilot who lives in Honolulu. He said, my grandmother told me about you. And I said, oh, who's your grandmother? Do I know her? And he said, no, she's been dead for 20 years. And I said, okay. And he said, she came to me in a dream and she said, you need to talk to Julie Ryan. And he said, I thought, who in the hell's Julie Ryan? And he said, I looked you up online and I scheduled this appointment. And so my grandmother told me about you. I said, I love it when dead people are doing my marketing for me.
How can it get even better than this?
How perfect is that? No
wow.
kidding.
That's pretty awesome.
Well, I think it's a matter of following where we're led. And I've experienced so many amazing things in my life that I would say upwards of probably even 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, I learned to expect the people that I need to show up right when I need them. I expect for the answers that I need to show up. I expect that things are working out in their best way. And when I'm feeling badly, I do have a technique that I teach, as you know, about how to raise our vibrational level instantly. May I share that?
Please, please.
It's called the 2-minute rule. And it goes something like this. When thoughts come into our heads, they don't have a meaning until we give them a meaning. And our thoughts create our reality. Michael McDonald's song, What a Fool Believes. I was listening to that recently, Elaine, and he says, what a fool believes he sees, and nobody has the power to change his mind, basically. And a fool can be any one of us. Not that we're acting foolish, but we believe what we see. So when thoughts come into our heads and they feel badly, they're always based in fear. Now, there are two kinds of fear. There's rational fear. Something's going to harm you or kill you, change the conditions before it does. And then there's irrational fear, which is 99.9% of the thoughts that we think that feel bad. Anger, jealousy, boredom, grief, actual fear. Anything that feels badly is based in fear. The key is to be able to discern between the two. simply because when we're in fear, our bodies immediately go into fight or flight. It's an autonomic nervous system response. We don't even think about it. Our bodies just do it. And our cortisol levels go up, our norepinephrine levels go up. We feel stress from that. When we're in fight or flight, the blood drains from our brain, goes to our heart and our extremities so we can run away from the perceived fear, whether it's a tiger chasing us or we're running late for an appointment, excuse me. So what we want to do is to be able to tell, is this a real fear or a fake fear? 99.9% of the thoughts we think that feel bad are fake fears. So here's how you can discern. You just ask yourself when you have a thought that feels badly, is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? It's a yes or no answer in this game. No, but ... isn't a viable answer. So is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? You hear a yes, get out of the road before the truck runs you over. That's a rational fear that can harm you or kill you. If, however, as it most likely will be, you hear a no, I'm running late for this appointment. Is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? No, but it feels like it is. You stay out of fight or flight and you can think clearly and you can call the doctor's office and say, hey, I'm stuck in traffic. Just want to let you know I'm running late. And if they say, well, we're really sorry, you're going to have to reschedule. Okay, so reschedule versus, oh my God, Elaine, if I miss this appointment, I've waited 9 months for it. I'll have to wait another 9 months. And what if there's something really wrong with me and it just takes root and I get sick and then I can't work and then I can't feed my family and I can't pay the mortgage or the rent. And so my whole family and I, we're going to be homeless and starving on the street. Really?
Wow.
Running late for an appointment. But that's what we all do. We all go into that black hole of the what ifs. So change it. Is this going to kill me in the next 2 minutes? No. Boom. You know it's a fake fear, then you can move on. And if you're still stuck, you can go, what if? What if I'm late and they can still take me? What if I miss this and they can get me in tomorrow? What if? Just change it. The beauty of the 2-minute rule is it's free and it's convenient. It works in any situation. It works anywhere your brain is, and your brain's usually with you wherever you are. So use it. You can use it unlimited times a day, and it works great.
Absolutely. I can attest to that.
Yeah.
It is absolutely brilliant, and it works every single time because it also helps you go back into your heart.
Yeah.
So often your head isn't necessarily telling you something that's going to serve you. Your
Because you've
mind
lost
is trying
clarity.
your mind's trying to protect you. And so it doesn't like a lot of change. And your heart knows that everything is there for your highest good. Everything is there that's working out for you. So if you are running late, say, thank you, angels, for arranging everything perfectly for me. I'm going to have the best experience, and so will everyone else involved. I mean, you don't have to control everything.
Right.
There's something else, a higher purpose that's working behind the scenes, and you don't get it yet. You haven't been given the secret sauce yet, but that's okay. You don't always have to understand it. Just know it in your heart and accept it.
Well, and control is a false comfort. You know, we all think that we're going to be safer and our lives are going to go more smoothly if we're in control. And that's just not the case. When we put an idea out there, and you're an entrepreneur like I am, you put an idea out there and you trust that all the different variables that we need for that idea to take root and to blossom are going to show up exactly when we need them to show up. And then we can say, okay, it's going to unfold in unimaginable ways. Well, that's because when we try and control it and it has to happen in the way we envision it, our frame of reference is limited. We're only envisioning it based on what we know at that time. Well, that's how things get invented. That's how new different methodologies are formed. It's unimaginable because it hasn't happened yet. And when we let spirit guide us, and it's not that we get a roadmap that says, okay, you stop here and then you do this, and then you do that, and then you do this. No, it's you take a step, take action, and then your next step's going to be revealed and you take that step. And then another step's going to be revealed, and you take that step, which makes it fun. Because if we knew everything that was going to happen before it happened, that would be just boring as the day is long, right?
It really would. And, it really speaks to something that I experienced during my stroke when I had a conversation with the divine. That was my big wake up call. That's what brought me all this awareness and this connection with the divine. It was New Year's Day, 2005. And during my stroke, they asked me a rhetorical question. They said, okay, we really want you to understand this. Everything is love. You are love. The air you're breathing is love. The chair you're sitting in is love. The God of your understanding is love. Absolutely everything is love. So, how do you expand love when everything already is love? I was stumped. I had no idea. And they said, we decided to create human beings who don't think that everything is love. And that contrast, the difference between what is wanted and what is not wanted, creates the superpower of choice, where you choose to step back in fear, trying to stay safe and control the situation, or you step forward with grateful curiosity and love. You don't know what's coming. You're looking for the blessings. And every time you step forward with love, you expand the divine. You expand consciousness. You expand all that is. So you've been physical many times in the past, and you will be physical many times in the future, because it's the rock star place to be. Now, the way it works is we give you all kinds of challenges that knock you out of alignment with the divine, with the God of your understanding. And then you suddenly go, oh man, I'm just not feeling it today. I'm out of alignment. And you use your tools to get back into alignment. And it's that being out and coming back in that expands the divine. So of course we're going to show you all kinds of things that drive you crazy and make you nuts and freak you out, because then you can come back into alignment, which is what we want you to do. I was like,
well, furthermore, that's how we create. When we know what we don't want, that's what helps us create what we do want. And if everything was just hunky all the time, not only would that be boring, but we wouldn't have any incentive to create. I've heard about a bazillion times from Spirit, Elaine, that when we're going through something that we could see from our human perspective, even as horrific, they're all around us going, this is cool. What's she going to create out of this? How's she going to get out of this situation? What good things are going to result? And then to your point earlier, everything goes into the collective consciousness. And then it benefits all of us.
It really does. And one more message that I want to share with you, because I can't let you go, right? I got to keep this conversation going. I'm having such a good time. I was doing the 7-day mental diet. I don't know if you've ever done that before.
I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, it created in the 1930s. And for 7 days, you do not blame, shame, judge, criticize, or gossip about anything. Very hard to do. And for those 7 days, you don't bring in any negative influence. No watching the news, no listening to nasty stuff, nothing. So no garbage in, no garbage out for 7 days. And if you find yourself accidentally kind of going there, you just kind of flick it off and cancel, clear, and go back to the good stuff. So I'm practicing the 7-day mental diet, and I go to the grocery store. And I kid you not, every single aisle, someone is arguing about something. I get to the front and all the headlines are some natural disaster. And then I overhear people raging about some conflict somewhere in the world. And I get my groceries, I go to the car, I sit down and I connect with the divine. I'm like, seriously? I'm trying to be positive here. You're not helping. And they immediately said, yeah, we are guiding you. And you are guiding us. Every time you notice something that you don't know how to fix personally, like the homeless situation, like starvation around the world, like a natural disaster, like a political upheaval, anytime you notice something like that, we expect you to immediately imagine everyone involved or impacted 2 energetic levels above where they are now. Right now, they're in the flames. We expect you to envision them whole, healed, and thriving as the phoenix. Every time you do that, it empowers us to support them. We are guiding you, and you are guiding us.
Power of prayer.
Yeah, it works.
Mm-hmm.
It freaking works. Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of works, I love your book. Your book is Awesome. I read it cover to cover really fast, and I loved it because my experience was much more right to the point. Like I went right to the party. You have the whole process, the whole experience as someone is transitioning, what's really going on. Could you tell us a bit about your book? Because you've made an incredibly generous offer to the audience.
Sure. Well, what you did was you had a near-death experience. What I describe is somebody who's actually transitioning to heaven and they're not coming back in this lifetime, which there's a difference. I think most people think that the NDEs are the same as when somebody dies. There are snippets of that, perhaps, but it's a totally different experience, has been what I've been shown and learned over the years. So as we're dying, we're all surrounded by angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets. Nobody dies alone ever, 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 ever. Everybody goes to heaven. This whole concept about heaven and hell, are you going to fly or are you going to fry when you die? Everybody flies. There was a movie in the 1980s called All Dogs Go to Heaven. Well, all people go to heaven as well. And how this works is time doesn't exist in the spirit world. Time's a human creation. So I've coined what I call the 12 phases of transition. And it's the configuration that the angels and the deceased loved ones' spirits and pet spirits assume as the person is getting closer to death. And it's the same for somebody who dies instantly, like in the case of a homicide or suicide, or whether somebody dies over a prolonged period of time, like days, weeks, months, even years. There is this sequence of events that happens. So the Cliff Note version is the spirit exits the body through the top of the head, and it hangs on attached to the top of the head in what I call a bubble configuration. It looks like a speech bubble, where in a cartoon, the character's thoughts or words are positioned. And the first spirit to show up as part of this transition is the maternal spirit, closest to the person who's dying. That surprised me, Elaine. I thought God probably had like some dispatch department where when somebody was dying, they, send some angel who would run the show. That's not what I've experienced literally thousands and thousands of times. It is the maternal spirit that's closest to the dying person who not only shows up first, but runs the show from the spirit world. So those of us who are moms, I'm here to tell you that you're helping your child transition even from heaven. Beyond the grave, you're helping your child transition. And then the paternal spirit closest to the person who's dying shows up. And they stand, let's say for conversation's sake, we're talking about somebody who's dying and they're in a bed. And so then the maternal spirit brings in these angels, and they're massive. I'm a Catholic girl, 12 years of Catholic schools. I was taught angels have big wings, wear white gowns, they're barefoot, and they have a rope belt. That's what they look like to me. And so they anchor, the parental spirits anchor at the foot of the bed, and then there's a circle that's formed with the angels filling in the rest of the circle. As the person is getting closer to death, that circle expands into a horseshoe and then eventually a straight line across the foot of the bed. And throughout this, there are so many other thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of other spirits that show up in period dress, mind you. We can have Renaissance people. We can have people dressed like Twiggy in the 1960s, mini skirts and go-go boots and that. We can have present day people dressed. And these are all people who are there to welcome that person to heaven. I call them the Welcome to Heaven Committee. And that line of angels to me is like a line of demarcation. They're angelic crowd control. So, all these spirits, it's like they look like dots on the horizon to me. And a couple of nuances that are worthy of mentioning, if I may. First of all, around phase 5-ish, there are 2 additional angels who show up and they position themselves on either side of the spirit bubble. First time I saw all of this was when my own mother was dying in 2002. And I thought, and I'd been studying woo-woo for 10 years or so, but I'd never been with anybody who was dying before, and I'd never seen any of this stuff. And I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting because here's these extra angels. I had no clue what they were going to do, but I knew that they were going to help facilitate my mother's spirit separating from her body. And at the time, I felt like the Lady of Justice scales, because on one side of the equation, my heart was breaking because my mother was dying. On the other side, I was seeing all this spiritual stuff that was glorious, and it helped balance the scale. So phase 5, these angels show up. About phase 9, their wings start to move. And it's a very slow, rhythmic movement. Reminded me of a giant owl's wings, where you can almost feel the drag that their silent wing movement is creating. And that's what happened with these angels. Their movement of their wings formed a vortex above my mother's head. And again, I thought, oh, righty, this is going to be interesting. And I figured that it would help her spirit detach from her body. And that's exactly what happened. It was interesting, though, Elaine, because when their wings moved and this vortex formed, it reminded me of being in a car wash at the end where they turn on the dryer and it sucks all the water off your car.
Yeah.
I could see it.
Great.
I could hear it. I could feel it. And I was the only one in the room with my mom at this point. It was in the middle of the night. She was in a inpatient hospice facility. So that's exactly what happened. Her spirit exited through the vortex, was escorted to heaven by these angels on either side of it. Well, I'm writing Angelic Attendants, my book, about what happens when we transition. And I was led to just do some research on owl wings vortex.
Really?
Yeah, there's this thing when you do that called the wingtip vortex. There are tens of thousands of aeronautical engineering drawings and pictures and articles about how anything that flies, whether it be a plane or a jet or a kite or a bug or a bird, there are these vortices that form underneath their wings and it causes lift. And I thought, oh, for heaven's sakes, that's what I watched happen with my mother. The movement of the wings, like a bird, causes a vortex, which causes lift. And I thought that was remarkable, that something that was happening in the spirit world, I could see, hear, and feel in our human world. And it was all an integral part of my mother's transitioning. May I share the story about how the book came about?
Please do, because you've generously offered to give everyone a copy of this book. Tell us where we can get it.
Yeah, for free. Anybody that wants a copy of Angelic Attendants, What Happens as We Transition from This Life into the Next. And by the way, there's illustrations of the different positions of the angels and the spirits and all of that. Just go to julieryangift.com. julieryangift.com. We'll send you a free digital and audio book download, and it's also in Spanish at that link as well, if you prefer Spanish. And I say, give it to anybody and everybody you want. Share the link, because I believe this stuff should be taught in the schools, because we're so afraid. There's lots of information out there, Elaine, about the afterlife, about near-death experiences, about grieving, about past lives, but not much about what happens when we're dying. And that's what people are afraid of. And university-based research now shows, and has been published, that 90% of people see the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets as they're transitioning over the last 6 months of their lives. 90%. So we think, oh, grandma's hallucinating from the morphine that hospice is giving her. No, she's not. She's actually seeing her deceased mother, who spirits in the room, even though the mom's been gone for 60 years. It doesn't matter. And it's very comforting and soothing to the person who's dying. So how this came about was, one day I was with my mentor and she was doing a healing on me. And I was laying on a massage table and my loved one's spirits are on either side of the table when she's doing a healing on me and they participate in the healing. Even my dog, Katie, her little paws are on the table and she's on her hind legs. So one day this spirit of this dead Pope shows up. He had his Pope hat on, his shepherd's rod, Pope outfit, the whole 9 yards. And I said, well, who are you? And he said, I'm Clement. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I've never heard of a Pope Clement. And he laughed and he said, well, I was number 6. And I said, okay, how may I help you? Kind of like, why are you here? And he said, you're supposed to teach the world what happens when somebody dies, because it's been so bastardized through the millennia. People are afraid to die, and there's nothing scary about it. It's glorious. And you know that because you've seen it. By this point, my mom had been gone several years, and I'd helped several other family and friends and their family members transition. And he goes, you know what the scope is. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, and you just need to teach the world what's happening here. And I laughed and I said, gosh, thank you so much for the offer, but I'm really not interested because I'm a businesswoman and everybody's going to think I'm nuts. He laughed.
Thanks, right?
Yeah. Think about it. He laughed and he said, yeah. Everything you've done in your life has prepared you for this. And I said, again, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm really not interested. So Elaine, I go to my car to go home a little bit later. And just for kicks, I looked him up on the internet on my phone. Come to find out, this guy was in office during the Black Plague, when 2/3 of Europe died, and he's best known for his prayers for the dying and his prayers for the dead. And I thought, Ryan, you can't make that up. There's no way. So it took a couple more years, because I thought, I live in the deep South. They're going to be burning a cross in my front yard. So a couple years later, I'm in church, and my husband's on one side, my son's on the other. And the priest, during his sermon from the pulpit, says, wouldn't it be great if somebody could tell us really if our loved ones and our angels show up and help us go to heaven when we die? And I'm getting elbowed from my husband and my son. And I'm thinking, God, really? From the pulpit? You're giving me grief about this? Seriously? And so that's what started this journey for me. I sold my medical device company, came out of the blue, wasn't expecting it, and wrote Angelic Attendants. And now my 8th book is in the works. And I think this stuff should be taught in the schools. So I give away tens of thousands of copies of it annually, just because it's so important for us to know this. And for heaven's sakes, we're all going to go through the loss of a loved one. And when we're in the middle of that, there's a part of our brain going, oh no, I'm going to be there one day. I wonder what's happening. And it gives us the information to help us get through that.
That is so wonderful. And thank you for sharing that story, Julie, because honestly, when the divine wants you to take action on something, they are very persistent. And they will keep throwing it at you until you finally agree to move in that direction. You are guided all the time. All the time. Now, I'm so appreciative. Thank you. I love my copy. I have it in pride of place, and I review it every once in a while because my experience was slightly different. I didn't get all the step-by-step what happens. I just saw that it's a graduation. It's not an ending.
You mean with yourself when you died, or when your loved ones?
Yeah, when anyone transitions, it is a graduation into a higher level of being. It is not an ending. Your spirit is not gone. You still exist. You're just in a different form.
Right.
Now, one of the things we always do here at the Abundance Journey, we love to turn the tables on our guests, because we know that when we give is when we truly receive the most. You've been so incredibly generous, Julie. What can we do to support you?
Well, download my book, Angelic Attendants, JulieRyanGift.com. Come to one of my classes. I've got online classes. I've got my in-person class that I teach once a year. It's going to be October 24th through the 26th in Atlanta, Georgia. I rent out a hotel. It's adjacent to the airport, so we have free shuttle. And it's a blast. You learn how to do the whole buffet of psychicness in a weekend. I have dozens of graduates who come and volunteer at their own expense to be there because it's so extraordinary, the experience. And I always tell people it's one of the most fun weekends you'll ever spend in your life. And at the end, they always go, "You talk about how fun it is." I just couldn't even imagine. It went way beyond the fun that I imagined it would be. I said, "I know, told you." Because when we're in communication with spirit, when we're in the high frequency, it's a frequency of pure love and joy. And it's Atlanta. It's a Southern Garden Party theme. It will be one of the most fabulous weekends of your life. You will enhance your life in every area.
Boy, Julie, I just might have to join you. That is October 24th through the 26th of 2025.
Correct.
And I am going to join you there. I think that's going to be absolutely fabulous, and I can't wait.
I was going to talk to you about that after we were done recording, but I
want you to move in. I want you to move into my house because I need to chat with you every day and have conversations. It was so awesome. I had the best time, Julie. And you've given me quite a challenge because I have to do the Activate Abundance segment next. I have pages and pages of, no, I tried to be subtle, but man, you give so much wisdom and so much great advice. And you're so clear and so loving. I really appreciate your generosity and your commitment to sharing this information because you're right. People really need it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today. Everybody else, stick around. We're going to be back in just a minute for Activate Abundance. You see why I adore Julie. I mean, so down to earth, so real, so amazing. Step one is gratitude. Everything you want to experience in your life, every benefit, every wonderful blessing starts with gratitude. That is always step one. Gratitude is the acorn of your abundance tree. It's the ignition switch to higher consciousness. So we always start with gratitude. Step two is to acknowledge something you heard that was an aha for you. Now, I know this, but Julie said it so clearly, and she said it early on, and I just want to bring this home. She said, once you connect with spirit, you can do it all. Once you connect with spirit, you can do it all. And she's talking about intuition. She's talking about remote healing. She's talking about speaking with your loved ones. She's talking about all of the higher consciousness abilities that we think are so extraordinary and so unique and so unusual. You have that ability too. All you have to do is connect with spirit. And as Julie says, we've been doing this for time immemorial. They've been doing this since people learned how to walk on land. We have known that connecting with spirit is always the key to activating all of those higher levels of being. We've got examples throughout the centuries that this is real. So don't pretend that you can't have it, that you can't experience this, that you can't be it. Because once you make that shift, you make that connection, you get it all. You get the whole buffet. Love that. Step three, appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Once you accept that all you have to do is connect with that spirit and everything is there for you. Because if you understand this, it's just such a visceral inner knowing. It's like you carry yourself differently. You show up differently. Why? Because you know that you are the embodiment of the divine, that spirit is moving through you to enrich you and enrich everyone around you at the same time, that you are guided and all is well. All you're doing is opening yourself up to receive that guidance and taking action that's in alignment with that guidance. So step one is gratitude. Step two is acknowledge something you heard that was an aha for you. Step three is appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Step four is activate it. I found three different ways to take something that's a concept and make it physically, tangibly real for you. The first way is schedule time to get it done. I include journaling in this and meditation because if you don't schedule time for it, you're busy. You're not going to get to it. Schedule time to journal because like for me, I've got all this stuff going through my head, all these things happening in my mind. And in order to really understand and receive the guidance, it helps when I write it down. And then I can get an objective perspective on the message that's coming through, and it's easier for me to receive. So I highly recommend schedule time to get it done. The second way to activate abundance is with a physical trigger, like crossing your fingers or tugging on your earlobe to remind yourself, hey, I'm connected. I connected my energy with Julie and with Elaine when I listened to this podcast years ago, and I'm still connected. All I have to do is maybe take those 3 deep breaths, breathe in, I am, breathe out consciousness. Boom, I'm right back in that zone, in that energy. I'm connected with their love. I'm connected with higher consciousness, and I can experience all that higher consciousness has to offer from this space. All I have to do is connect. The third way to activate abundance is to work with what I call an abundance buddy. Most people call them accountability buddies, but I'm all about abundance. This is somebody who knows you, who loves you, who gets you, and you let them know this is a new behavior that I choose to adopt. I choose to monitor how often I'm in alignment with the God of my understanding and how often I'm out of alignment. Because I want to make sure that every time I notice I'm out, I take the time to get back in, because that's when everything is available to me. And I choose to be present to all that I can enjoy in my life. And they will lovingly call you on it when you're out of alignment. Because, hey, habits can be a little tricky. We tend to slide back into them, especially in challenging moments. And working with an abundance buddy can help you stay the course and be the person you choose to be. Step 1, gratitude. Step 2, acknowledge something that was an aha for you. Step 3, appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Step 4, activate it. Step 5, celebrate your progress. This is a joyous unfolding of your amazing life. So much is available to you whenever you're willing to receive it. All you have to do is align with the God of your understanding, align with the divine, join us in higher consciousness, and let that radiate through you to enrich your life and the life of 260,360,600 other people that you know. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time for the Abundance Journey.
You've been listening to the Abundance Journey Show with Elaine Starling. Visit theabundancejourney.com/podcast gifts to access today's gift, as well as gifts from our other guests. Tune in every week to activate abundance in your life and business. If something resonated with you, please share it with your friends so they can benefit too. Keep activating abundance, and we'll see you in the next episode.